Good morning, day 128. I'm going to be heading home back to Kentucky. Yesterday was an exciting day in Kentucky and the horse racing world. Woo! Long shot won, like second longest long shot in history. It's pretty exciting. So anything is possible. That's why so many people gamble. You just never know. But those trainers and that owner, they knew what that horse can do. So they knew it wasn't really a gamble. It was their chance and they took it. Anyway, that's not what we're going to talk about today, though. But I will show you where I am. I'm at a marina. We're going to be walking out. Oh, wait a minute. This might be a better view. You can see the ocean and the harbor out there. I can smell the fish this morning from the fishing boats. Hey, okay. What we're going to talk about today, if you don't want to be called out on your, don't read Proverbs. just saying. It is hard not to look in the mirror. And it's taken me, this is going to come from chapter 21, where here I've read 21 chapters so far. And I'm just now looking at a word that I've seen used repeatedly and kind of looking in the mirror and going, wait a minute, do I do that? Yep. Oh boy. And I intentionally wrote my title today, joking / sarcasm. And there's a fine line between those two. Get it? Yeah, I have a corny sense of humor. And I love to joke. But I also come from a family where sarcasm is our love language. Do you come from a family like that? I think it's like America's love language. And maybe in Europe too. I can only speak for America. Yeah. And there's a fine line. And sometimes when you've crossed it when the other person on the other end of that, and maybe you've done it at their expense, it's like, hey, that wasn't funny. And then you're like, oh, but I was just joking. It's still so funny when now as a mama, and I don't have that dry sense of humor. I come from a family and married to somebody that has a dry sense of humor. I don't always get jokes, so I'm going to just put that up there too. But I do know the difference between what's funny, what's truly funny and meant to be funny, and then what is really mocking. This is the word that's used in the Bible, mocking, or at least whatever original word that's been translated. Maybe if they were translating it in today's times, they would use the word sarcasm. I don't know. But even when I looked up the definitions of mocking and sarcasm, actually, mocking is in the definition of sarcasm. And this is kind of a tough one. Now, as a mama, I have two kids that are, everybody's got something in life, but my two kids were given very obvious physical differences that set them apart from their peers. And it sometimes has been the case that they have been the object of this type of joking or mocking. And sometimes it's funny, and then sometimes it gets taken too far. And they come home crying. And they laugh along with their friends or with, whatever happened. And then they come home crying. Mama Bear comes out. So it really is a fine line. And when it's done from people that you love and that you're friends with, a lot of times you might laugh along when you know better, whether it's at your expense or a friend's expense or somebody else, or maybe it's a broader just topic of conversation that's the hot button issue of the day. And you're kind of complicit. I'm complicit if I laugh along and join in um, when I know better. But because it's humor and we call it joking, um, we can easily deceive ourselves. I can think of an example that I did it's a couple of weeks ago. And my daughter, as she's coming into her own personhood, is um, aligning with some things politically and, big issues that I'm not against, but I'm not necessarily in the same spot where she is. Let's just say that. Or it's not a passion issue for me. But I can, as a 9, of course, on the Enneagram, the peacemaker, I can see all the sides. So I rarely fall distinctly in one camp. Imagine that. But in today's world, with social media and the internet and all that, we have these things called GIFs and memes. Well, I found one that I thought was funny. And it really was funny. But it was also at the same time a little bit sarcastic and mocking of her particular position. And I sent it to the whole family, like, haha, isn't this funny? Well, she didn't think it was, because she knew that what the underlying message was, and that this was something that was important to her, and we were mocking and making fun of it. Or I was, let me just call it out. And I went to her, I did apologize, kind of half-heartedly. I was like, but it really was funny, don't you think? It was funny. No, not to her. And I knew that. I knew it, and I did it anyway, because I thought that she should have more of a sense of humor about it, or not be taking it so seriously. Well, who am I to make that judgment? This is what, I feel like I'm getting a little wiser as I talk. Like, this is what wisdom does. It stays focused on what it knows is right. It lets other people be fools. It doesn't try to also join in the mocking. And not to say that my daughter is a fool, but even if I thought that her position or her thoughts were foolish, for me to go around shaking my finger or making fun of, like, that's not going to help her. That probably will just send her deeper in that direction. Oh yeah, you think this is funny? Well, let me show you. That's actually what we do to people. We divide further. We're not, with our humor, we're not bringing, or what we think, what we deceive with ourselves as humor. But it's really this mocking or sarcasm. We divide further, and we send people further away, because especially if they know we're claiming to be believers, and this is how we treat them. Like, we're not representing God very well, right? And they're going to be like, well, you just hurt me with your joking. I don't think I like your God. If your God says that that's okay to treat me that way, I think I'll just go over here. And that's the risk that we run when we're not wise. But it's hard. Also and I'm in chapter 22, by the way, I think. 21 or 22. Anyway, and when I do my writing, I'll give the verses. But in this chapter, it also says, be careful not to spend time with angry people, because you will become angry as well. Because, and we've talked about this several times before, when you spend time with people, of course you start to just see the good things about them, and then you start justifying or going, oh, well, that's maybe whatever they're doing that's not so good, is you just kind of say, oh, well, it's not that bad. And then before you know it, you're joining in because you love these people. You've normalized it now. It's not so bad anymore. And because you can see that they're not all bad. So then you might start adopting the parts of their behavior that's not so good, whether it's joking. And often this sarcasm and um, mocking is a form of anger. There's a passive aggressive undertone. Like, this is how I really feel, but I'm not going to tell you because we're friends and I don't want to be just outwardly aggressive and angry because I don't agree with you. So I'll package it up as a joke. My sister and I I'm very sensitive by nature. And when we were young, one of my sisters that was often her comeback, when she would take it too far, and then I would get my feelings hurt, and then it would be like, but I was just joking. I'm like, oh yeah, you're saying that now, but that's, and I'm not, you know, I've been guilty of that too. So I'm just giving an example. I could give examples of where I've done that. As parents, sometimes we do that with our kids. My dad used to do it to me. I do it with my mom sometimes. She does it with me, vice versa, where we have these little idiosyncrasies that maybe just get on our nerves about that person, and it builds up, and then sarcasm, joking, mocking. So it's one that I'm really, and like, again, I'm nearing the end where I'm 2/3 of the way through Proverbs. And this has been said repeatedly, repeatedly, probably for people like me that are like, oh, I don't do that. Oh, I don't do that. I'm not a mocker. I don't do that. And then you're like, wait a minute. I probably do that, don't I? Yeah. So again, don't shoot the messenger. Like, I can't shoot the Bible. Oh man. Yeah, if you don't want to get called out, don't read Proverbs yet. And don't get into the Enneagram, because that's the other part. The Enneagram will call you out. But this in particular, because it is sort of my family's love language, I think I'm going to have a conversation with my family members and let them know that at least I am going to really work on this. And maybe even make some amends. May go back and, even for the example that I gave you of with my daughter, may double back and really make sure she knows that I'm sorry about that. And yeah, mocking is not fun. And we've all had things. Kids are especially good at it. And there's probably some, as you're learning how to socialize, and maybe some benefit of it. But often it gets taken too far. And the mockers it's a way to keep yourself in self-deception and stay foolish, because it definitely reveals that you've got a wall up in an area. So, but there are things that truly are funny, that are mocking and are intentionally that way, and you know it. So I'm circling back this way because I want to make sure that this isn't mean that you've got to be stoic and you can't have a sense of humor, and that, no, there is really humor and joking that sometimes includes intentional mocking. For example, I was watching a YouTube video the other day. It's a couple of ladies that make fun of all the Enneagram characters, and it's a caricature. It's an extreme, like, cartoonish version of that, and that's intentionally funny. You know it when you watch it. Like, it's not the same thing as what we're talking about, which is that meanness that is, called joking that sarcasm is. Sarcasm and mocking. Just be careful. And because it reveals a lot about what is in your heart, and it's not honest. It doesn't draw people closer. And oftentimes that's the mistake we can make, is we think if we can do that with each other, that we're bonding, and that's funny. But what the other person who's on the other end of it probably isn't telling you is that it hurts, and they're just laughing along. People that are overweight, people that look different, people that, like, whatever it is, they may be laughing on the outside, but inside they're crying. So don't be the person that does that to them. And I'm going to stop it too. I'm going to really work on this. So, all right, that is what Proverbs had to tell me today, and God. And I'm going to really examine my own heart and motives and work on it. All righty. Have a great day. Let me show you. We have a lot of clouds today, so we're not going to really see a sunrise, but it's still beautiful nonetheless. And this is Anna Maria Harbor. I think that's what it's called. That's Anna Maria Island, that other little piece of land out there. And I am what is, if you want to know, I'm on a little island called Perico, Perico. And it's very beautiful, and I'm blessed to be here and surrounded with such beautiful nature. And I'm going back to another beautifully natural place that is Kentucky, the Bluegrass State, and I will see you there tomorrow. Bye. Have a great day.